A few formatting items for tonight. You can see I have a number of colleagues and students joining me tonight. I'm so excited. We'll introduce everybody. I know there's some familiar faces and there's also some new faces. We're excited to introduce you to everyone and talk about our programs. We will be touching on all levels, elementary, middle school, and high school. So just be patient, and I'm sure we'll get to your level at some point. We're going to talk about some of our established programs, some new programs, some new people, and some not so new people, but in new roles. I want to begin by saying, I also want to include that some of the new roles we'll be talking about tonight, particularly the elementary counselors and the student assistance counselors, have been made possible by the support of our Board of Education, who have set mental health supports as a priority. They've been terrific about supporting these new roles. So we're grateful to the Board of Education and excited to provide these opportunities and supports for our students. We also have a few students joining us tonight who are going to talk about what they've done to help support the mental health of their peers. And so one other logistics item. For now, we have the chat turned off. We have some presentations, some introductions, some explanations to provide. And then towards the end, we will open up the chat for questions and help have an opportunity for two-way communication towards the end of the presentation. So hold on to your hats, and I'm looking forward to hearing from so many of our colleagues and students this evening. So I'd like to begin by introducing Dr. Lisa Castaldo, our Assistant Superintendent for Pupil Personnel Services, who's going to talk about a bit how the PPS department supports mental health of our students, and then introduce many of the folks on the screen tonight.
Hi, good evening. How is everyone feeling? Can you see the Yale EI mood meter behind me? That's my piece in my office that I always say, and I hope we're all feeling well and we enjoyed the snow. One of the first things I wanted to do was talk a little bit about Pupil Personnel Services, because most people don't know what Pupil Personnel Services is. So I wanted to show you where to find us. If you go to I think you can see it, the opening web page for Suffern Central, I'm sure you've all seen that. If you go to the departments link and you go to Student and Family Supports, click on that, and you get to the Student and Family Supports page, which is Pupil Personnel Services. You can see there's a little introduction from me. There's a picture of me with some of the students in kindergarten. If you click on that picture after tomorrow, there will be a live link to most of what we talked about today and different ways to get support in Suffern Central. Also on the left side of the page, you'll see the column has all of the different things you might need to access from us, including mental health resources, RTI or response to intervention, home instruction and homeschooling for students, special ed services, and 504 services. So I wanted to show you that first. I'll need to figure out, I'm done. We in Pupil Personnel Services are real excited for everything we can do for your students and your children. But one of the things that we really are proud of are all of the mental health and social emotional learning supports in Suffern Central. We pride ourselves on having a tiered system of supports or levels of supports that your children can access when needed. Our foundational level has been for 3 years now, Yale EI, and that's where the mood meter comes from. And your students, your children probably mention that at home with you. We are in our 3rd year of implementation, which means we're ready to roll it out to the families and the parents. Today, we'll be talking a little bit about, with some of our new people I will be introducing, we'll be talking a little bit about how you can use the Yale EI 4-ruler tools for self-regulation of emotions with your children in your home. And we hope that that will help you in your home to strengthen socio-emotional supports at this time. So we have with us some new people and some old people on this call today. We have our 2 elementary counselors, which is a relatively new position for us, just started last year. And that would be Mr. Travis Jackson, maybe if you wave, and Ms. Michelle Pansky. and they'll be talking to you a little bit about Ruler for emotional support for elementary students in the home. We also have one of our newest school psychologists who's based at the high school, Mr. Josh Pilgrim, if you could wave. And he will be talking to you about some of the supports that he's helped implement with two wonderful students that are on the call with us. They've set up a new support with Ms. Schwartz in the high school for a foundational level for students. And then I'd like to move on to our two student assistance counselors. So we have Mrs. Terry Ann Fang, if you want to wave, and Mrs. Bonnie Regina Ferber. And these are two people who have been added to the secondary level to help specific populations of students who are at risk. So I'm going to turn it over right now to the two student assistance counselors. Again, that's Bonnie and Terry Ann, and they're going to speak to you for a little bit.
Good evening, everyone. I'm the new student assistance counselor here at Suffern High School. I'm really excited to be becoming part of this community, and I'm even more excited to see that, the district is supporting the social and emotional well-being of its students and prioritizing that. Just to tell you a little bit about what student assistant programs are generally like, they usually intervene to address the social emotional barriers to learning. That's the opposite of academic barriers to learning. So things that might be happening with the individual or the family or in the community that might be hampering that student's accessing the curriculum. Usually they would get referred to the student assistance counselor through a teacher or through the guidance office, or it can be by a parent. So we can be reached that way as well. We can identify students and help students and provide them with resources in the community as well to help wrap around those students and help promote their educational growth and ensure resiliency. And especially now, we're finding that there are so many students that are struggling. This is such a challenge for students and for families as well. We can provide resources to families to help them with their students.
Yes. Again, my name is Terry Ann Anfang, and to piggyback off of what Bonnie said, I work specifically at the Suffern Middle School, and a lot of what I've been doing is what we call triage. So students are identified specifically by the guidance counselor that need additional supports that are beyond the academics. So there may be barriers to their academic performance, whether it be absenteeism from online or in-person learning, not turning in assignments on a regularly basis. So a lot of what I do is work with the student on an individual basis, work with the families, find out how it's going at home, find out if there's any kind of intervention that either the school could support or the family can support at home. A lot of community resources are being offered as well, because some of the impacts that are happening also need additional supports that are outside of the school. A lot of the students that are identified are also coming in to meet with me on a one-to-one basis, and we're striving towards having groups in the future. So families generally are reaching out after some outreach on my part, but for the most part, we're looking to support the student as a whole and finding out more on an individual level how I could offer support in my role as a student assistance counselor. And I work very closely with the guidance counselors for the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And I also work closely with Bonnie, who's at the high school level, because we know that all the children will be transitioning, especially the 8th graders, to high school. So we're developing that rapport now to see what, piggybacking off each other, what we're observing on both grade levels, just to see that that we working collaboratively, between the elementary and the high school. So to that end, thank you.
Thank you. So I think now we're going to look to having Mr. Jackson and Ms. Pansky talk a little bit about what we're doing at the elementary level. And I think you guys have a presentation for us on LEI, right?
Okay, I'm just going to present my screen real quick. Okay, so I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Michelle Pansky, and I am the elementary school counselor at Cherry Lane and Sloatsburg. This is my second year in Suffern, and I'm very excited to be here as well. And I'm extremely grateful to the Board of Education for supporting the mental health of our students also. Some of the things that I've been doing in the classroom, and I know Mr. Jackson has been as well, is a big part of our job is pushing into the classroom. So I've been pushing into each classroom once every 8-day cycle to every classroom. Some of the topics that we've covered so far have to do with the Yale EI, some of the core tools. Dr. Pasaldo had mentioned the mood meter, the meta moment, the class charter, and then some of the other character pillars like anti-bullying, gratitude, kindness, responsibility, growth mindset. One of the best ways we like to reinforce these lessons is through literature, especially with the little ones. They love to read aloud. So it's just a little sampling of some of the books that I brought into the classroom, especially when we're doing remote learning. It's nice to have a little read aloud video for the kids to engage in. So the class charter is one of the main Yale EI tools. It's something that is consistent across all grade levels. So these are a couple of examples of some of the charters that we've created in the classrooms. The charter is essentially a promise that the students make to each other about how they want to feel every day in the classroom. So every student has a say in the words that we choose for the charter. You choose 5 to 6 words, and we ask each other first, how do you want to feel? We brainstorm, we vote on the words, and then the second portion of it is how can we make each other feel that way? So an example that came up a lot this year especially was a lot of the students said that they wanted to feel safe in their classrooms. So we want to feel safe. How can we make each other feel safe? We can wear masks. We can stay socially distant. We can wash our hands. And every classroom, like I said, has a class charter. And we also made sure that we had virtual class charters for their Google Classrooms and their Seesaw class pages. So whether they were learning at home or at school, they had a reminder of the promise that they made to each other and can continue to keep that promise. Another portion of the Yale EI is the best self, which is a piece of the meta moment. So when you're making a decision, you look at what your best self would do in that moment. So I had some of our 5th graders create best self posters. So they brainstormed what their best self would look like and got to be a little creative. And this was another thing that we could do remotely while we were learning at home, come up with words that their best self looked like. So that was another fun project that we did in the classrooms. There are tons and tons of great resources on the Ruler website. This is a little snippet from my Bitmoji classroom, and I know Mr. Jackson has a great one too. But if you wanted to learn more about the core Ruler tools, you can access it through the Suffern School District website. We have the charter, the mood meter, the meta moment, and the blueprint. And there's also tons of family resources that we can use. And we really encourage you to look at this page and to create a charter within your own family and your own home. It's a great way to reinforce the things that we've been doing in the classrooms, use some of the language that we use in the classrooms. And you can create your family charter the same way we do in school by asking, how do you want to feel at home every day? What can we do to make sure that we're feeling that way? How can we help facilitate those feelings? And there are tons and tons of great resources by grade level on the Ruler website that can help facilitate you making these charters as well. All right, Mr. Jackson, that's it for me.
Thank you, Michelle. Good evening, everyone. My name is Travis Jackson. I am the elementary school counselor at Montebello, RP Connor, and Viola. This is my 18th year in the district as an employee. However, I attended Cherry Lane. I attended Airmont School, last class to graduate from Airmont, Suffern Junior High School, Suffern High School. I went to East Rampo for 10 years, did some work there, and came back when the first group of 6th graders came to the middle school. So that was a real special coming home for me. One of the big things that happened to me this summer is I discovered mindfulness, and it really helped me gain a different perspective on how I was going to work with my students and how I was going to perform my duties as a school counselor. So I've been doing a lot with our students on mindfulness. There's a video that I have as part of my presentation, but I'm going to ask Mrs. Mermelstein to just link it to the website later in the interest of time. I focus on different concepts like gratitude, empathy, resilience, understanding feelings, embracing the power of yet, accepting differences, doing your best. And there's a ninja series of books that I like to use with the kids. I use Calm Ninja and Angry Ninja a lot with our kids. So I do have a little presentation. It's not as polished as Mrs. Pansky's, but bear with me. I do have to give Mrs. Pansky a lot of credit. She did help me with my Bitmoji counseling office too. So that's Hawaii Day at RP Connor. Had a lot of fun on Hawaii Day. All right, so I formatted my Google presentation a little differently. That's why it looks differently, but that's just a slide from my Bitmoji counseling office. So this is an example of a class charter I did at Viola with Mrs. Rodriguez's kids. As Mrs. Pansky said, with the little ones, we talk about the class charter being a class promise. So there's actually a great book by LeBron James called I Promise. So we read that together. We talk about what promises we're going to make to each other, and then what promises are we going to make that become our class promise or our class charter. So this class chose to feel happy, excited, calm, safe, and loved. This was a charter I did with Mrs. Kogan's class, also at Viola. We want to feel happy, so we'll help each other. We want to feel calm, so we'll be mindful. We want to feel safe, so we'll follow the rules. We want to feel kind, we'll be respectful and helpful. And we want to feel included, so we will welcome others. And one of the things I did at RP Connor, along with the school psychologist and school social worker there, is we ran some new student groups for our new students, our new Connor Cougars. This is actually a charter that I did at Montebello with Mrs. Drestad's class. Great group of kids. Again, they want to feel happy, so they're going to invite others. They want to feel calm and relaxed, so they're going to be mindful. They want to feel goofy and have fun when appropriate. They want to feel safe and follow the rules. They want to feel kind and take turns and support each other and show focused attention. This is a bulletin board from Viola. Again, emotions matter in any language, and it's important that we support all of our learners. At Viola, to open up the school year, we started with Start With Hello, the Start With Hello campaign. We've been doing that for a number of years. So I read the book One, and then we did an anti-bullying campaign with the students. That's just a little example of what we did. And then these are some of the books that we use. One of the things that Mrs. Pansky and I worked hard on is we have an interactive read aloud library. So if you go to either of our Bitmoji offices by going to the Teaching and Learning tab on the school website, and then go to Counselor, follow the prompts, you can click on any number of the books in there and you can see and hear the story. But those are some of the books that I used with the kids. The Day the Lines Change is a lesson on resilience. Those Shoes I use for lessons on gratitude. Visiting Feelings is a great book. Understanding Feelings. Calm Ninja I mentioned before. I Am Human is a great book about empathy. And Accepting Differences is a great book about that. And if you want to reach me, that's how you can get me, tjacksonsuffernCentral.org. There's my phone number. And I'm on Twitter at MrJK_5. I think that's it. Yep, that's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Jackson and Ms. Pansky. So that's a lot of the excitement going on in our elementary, and just Dr. Castaldo mentioned it, but I want to reiterate that the elementary school counselor is a new role for us. This is only our second year with elementary school counselors, and wow, what an impact they have made. So thank you very much for all of your efforts in truly, defining and creating this program for our students. Thank you. At this time, I want to kind of go from the beginning of school to the latter part of school and introduce our students and their advisors who've created a group that supports students' mental health as a peer group. So it is my pleasure to introduce Tess Barg and Vic Raj. and their advisors, Tina Schwartz and Josh Pilgrim. And if you could tell us a bit about your group and how it formed and when it meets and what it's there for.
Hi, my name is Triage, and our club is called the Social Emotional Network. And the purpose of the club is to create an environment where Suffern high school students will be able to identify, understand, and discuss various mental health topics while creating a community that will allow students to feel supported and understood. The club meets bi-weekly every Thursday as of now. We don't have a location yet because we're still online. I think it's really important to have a club like this run by mostly students because I feel like it's harder to talk to people who are older than you and you might not feel like they understand you as well. But when you're talking to someone your age who looks like you and is going through similar things that you are, you feel more a part of a community and you feel more understood, more heard out. And I know that I was super scared to talk about that stuff, and when I started talking to people my age, it was a lot easier and I felt more comfortable. So I was thinking I wish I could help other kids feel like that as well.
Hi, my name is Tess Barg. I'm the other founder of the Social Emotional Network. Kind of going off what Vic said, we wanted to really create an environment where students can come together, especially with the change in the learning environment, with remote learning to hybrid. We wanted to create a foundation where students can come weekly to talk about their lives or their school environment especially. And I know me, having some time I could look forward to connect with other students is really important, especially when everyone's very separate. It's a great way to bring other students together. And we were also thinking of the freshmen and new incoming students, that having a place where they can talk to others and learn more about Suffern High School and our culture could be very beneficial to everyone. So.
Thank you. Ms. Schwartz and Mr. Pilgrim, anything you'd like to add?
I just want to add real quickly that I think this is a great club just for students to network and talk to each other. We didn't realize before the pandemic how much we need social communication and to interact with each other. And I think that this pandemic has shown us how important that is for us to talk and communicate. And so my hope for this group is that a lot of students will just come together with whatever issues that they might be having, anxiety, feeling down, whatever it may be, and not only talk about it, but encourage each other through it. And so that when they leave for the day or at the end of the school year, that they don't leave with the same feeling that they've had, but they can leave with more joy and understanding that, hey, somebody else understands what I'm going through and somebody else is willing to help me through this and walk me through this, even if it's from their own experiences. And just knowing that there are adults in the building, like me and Ms. Schwartz, that are willing to walk with you guys through this.
I think Mr. Pilgrim put it beautifully. When Tess and Vic, approached me, I was, more than happy to, support them. I think, whether it's the pandemic or not, when you feel alone, it's one of the worst feelings to have. So to have these connections with other people, to know that you're not going through it by yourself. We know that when we get emotional, our decisions aren't always the best decisions in the world because our decisions are driven so much through our emotions. And this is such an emotional time right now. And Mr. Pilgrim and I also want to keep this a positive place where we can, have the students connect to one another, but also remember what they're passionate about. Remember, that life is great and there's great things to, that are still in front of them. And, I just think it's just going to be a wonderful, environment for the students to come in, whether it's remote or in school. We've got this, we've kind of figured out how to still make connections, in the virtual world. So these are the best, two students that could possibly be leaders for this club. And Mr. Pilgrim was a student of mine, only maybe a couple years ago, right? You just and no, this is just wonderful. So I can't wait to see the future. I think the future is bright for, Suffern Central with the programs that are starting at the elementary school, middle school, the high school. And we're seeing that stigma is starting to go away. There was such a stigma before about talking about mental health. And, one of the things I say to my students and my own children, if you have a stomach ache, you would tell me and you would take a day off, but we're so afraid to say, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, because there's, it's not the same kind of remedy for that. And I think we want everyone to feel comfortable that it's okay to talk about not feeling well. It can be more than just physical now. So great job, guys. And I'm looking forward to being your advisor with Mr. Pilgrim.
Thank you so much. I commend you, Tess and Vic, for thinking of this idea and bringing it to fruition, making it happen. And thank you to Ms. Schwartz and Mr. Pilgrim for being there to allow the students this wonderful space. I'd also at this time like to introduce Mrs. Danielle Castaldo, who is one of our assistant principals at Suffern High School, and she's going to talk a little bit about some of the other things available at Suffern High School.
Hi, I'd like to second that thanks to Tina, Josh, Tess, and Vic. I'm fortunate to be part of a very large support system at Suffern High School. In addition to the administrators, we have 7 school counselors, 3 school psychologists, a social worker, and Ms. Felber, who you met as our school assistance counselor. We have just so much to offer. Vic and Tess spoke to you a little bit about the program that they are introducing this year. And we have other clubs as well, like the Validation Project with advisor Ms. Minnick, which focuses on different aspects of mental health, Mindful Mounties with advisor Ms. Sakura, which focuses on dealing with anxiety through mindfulness and yoga, and Heroes in Cool Kids, which has been around for quite some time with advisor Ms. Adden, where high school students visit 6th grade students and speak with them about the challenges of adolescence and their middle and high school experiences. We also offer a peer leadership course for our seniors, which is taught by Ms. Connolly, which is geared towards mentoring our underclassmen, specifically our freshman students. We are always looking for new and innovative ways, like Ms. Schwartz said, to help support the mental health of our students and decrease the stigmatization of mental health related illnesses. Not going to let out my secret quite yet, but we are looking at a program now that we're going to be excited to announce soon. Feel grateful to say, pre or post COVID, Suffern High School has the resources to support their students. And we are just glad that we have this to offer to you, and encourage anyone to reach out to any one of the number of people, and we'll point you in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd also like to introduce Mrs. Sybil Jeffs, who is an assistant principal at Suffern Middle School. She's going to talk a little bit about the middle school offerings.
Hello. So similarly to the high school, we have a great offering at the middle school of our clinicians, which we have 3 of. And then in addition to Ms. Terry Ann Amfang, our student assistance counselor, who has been triaging a lot of the questions that have been coming our way, as well as with our 3 school counselors. So some of the biggest questions that we've gotten are the questions that seem so trivial from parents, and sometimes they don't even want to ask them. Some examples of that are, how do I get my child to move from remote to coming in person? How do I get them in the building? How do I make their space at home a little better to work in? I have so many things going on in the house. So the questions that we've been getting, we've been trying to spread out to our school assistance counselor, our school counselors, our clinicians, and then just ourselves as an administrative team. And sometimes the answers are so simple as, well, how about you collaborate on a school space makeover at home? How about we have somebody meet your child at the door in the morning, walk them to class, they can start their day in the main office. Creating gratitude jars is something that groups of students have been doing as well. And we always remind our parents to remember that the behavior that their children are showing is communication. So the most important thing is to reach out to our teachers, to our teams, for us to call a team meeting. It's very easy to do, and everybody's very willing to do it. So one of our biggest things we're trying to promote is be in touch with us. And when we're reaching out, just let us know any question, big or small, and the help is there. There's no reason for children to struggle when we have so many resources. And beyond that, middle school is so transitional to begin with that our 6th graders have come in with a lot of the LEI work, or 7th and 8th graders, they know about their classroom charters. So we're going to try to build that into the families as well.
Great, thank you so much. And I believe Dr. Castaldo has some more information on Yale that she'd like to share.
And that was the perfect opening for that, because I wanted to share with you, let's see if I can get to it. I did show you before how to get to the PPS website, Family Supports, Student and Family Supports. If you click on my page with the children in the website, it will bring you to this. So this is the page that I have set up with all of the Yale EI resources linked right to it for all of you families to access. So Mrs. Jeffs just spoke about charters. So we have an example of a charter here. And if you click on the charter, there's a worksheet to use to set one up as a family. And if you click on the words charter supports, there's also a video explaining what the charter is. Over here is that mood meter I keep showing. If you click on the mood meter, you'll be linked to something. And if you click on the words mood meter supports, you're going to be linked again to a video. Over here, another one of the ruler tools is the meta moment, that taking a pause before reacting when something occurs in your life. So we've got this cute little picture with the toaster and not getting overdone in your moment. But there's a video there, a worksheet, and then a video connected to the Meta Moment Supports title. And the blueprint, how am I going to make my plan for self-regulation? Again, info for parents and a video. Now, some other pieces that are on here are ruler family resources in both English and Spanish, so you can access those. And over here, we have a video presentation that I did on all of the social emotional supports that we have at Suffern Central, so you can access that. Now, one of the things that's key these days, especially with the pandemic, is learning how to self-regulate. And yes, Yale EI gives us a lot of pieces of that. There's some other foundational things that do that as well that you can participate in as a family. So I have some links to those as well. So if you look over here, let me see how, if you look over here at this doggy and you click on him, it's a picture of my dog, but it shows you the value of having pets and how pets can help you self-regulate. Over here on this plant, which is probably the only plant I've been able to keep alive. I'm not good at this, but linked to this is a video and an article about gardening and the self-regulation characteristics that you can promote through gardening. Now over here, even more interesting on the bookshelf, if you click on the fireman's hat, the firefighter hat, you will link to a video that links to New York State Cares, which is the New York State official website on volunteering. And there's all sorts of volunteer opportunities listed there. On this here, the knitting, of course, you're going to link to how to knit to relieve stress. And then if you click on this poster here, it's all a list of daycations here in the Hudson Valley that you can take with your family. So you have a family time to enjoy. So if you link on this page through the web page of Suffern Central, it will take you to all sorts of opportunities you can do with your family to help relieve stress during the pandemic. And then if you click on this when you're on the page, it should take you right back to Suffern Central, which I can see, but you can't see. So let's see. It took me right back to here. So it'll take you right back to Students and Family Supports in Suffern Central. And again, on the left side are all of those ways that we can help you in the school district. So I just wanted to share that with everyone. If you are interested in starting Yale EI in your home, all of those links are right there, and you're going to access that through this page tomorrow. Thank you. I think back to you, Mrs. Weber.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Castaldo. I want to thank everyone for sharing some just great ideas. I want to pick up on a couple of things. Mrs. Jeffs, I think you used the phrase "be in touch with us," and I think that might be a middle school phrase, but that's a pre-K to 12 phrase for us. So if there's a question, if there's a concern, be in touch. Call a counselor, call an administrator. Talk to the teacher. That is what we are here for, and what our reason for being is to help support our families and our students. So I want to reiterate that. I'm going to ask Mr. Coronado, who is our Director of Technology, who is the man who makes this all happen, all of our live streaming events. I'm going to ask him to turn on the chat now. So if there are any questions, once he turns on the chat, it does take a couple seconds and you may need to refresh depending on what type of a device you're on and if you have a browser. So I'm told that the chat is on now. If you're not seeing it, then you should refresh and you should see the opportunity to chat. And Ms. Mermelstein, our public relations communications expert, is going to help facilitate if there are any comments or questions in the chat.
Mrs. Weber, can I just say one thing?
Absolutely.
While we're talking so much Yale EI, and again, we're in our third year of implementation, I do think it's appropriate to mention that we sent a team to the National Ruler Conference last year, the first ever Ruler Conference. Dr. Castaldo, Mrs. Jeffs, Mrs. O'Keefe, and Mrs. Bonatti. So I just wanted to acknowledge their contribution to that conference.
I think we would be remiss in mentioning or leaving out that you are presenting at the Yale EI conference this year, Mr. Jackson. And who is on your team? Because I know you've put together a team for that.
Mrs. Pansky is with me, and I'm still working out the other members of the team. We're kind of combing everyone in the different buildings to see who'd like to be involved.
So last year when we presented, that was in early March of last year. It was probably one of the last things to happen before the entire close down of the world for the pandemic. This year, we're so excited that we were chosen to send a team again. We're probably one of the only districts that's been chosen to send 2 different teams in 2 years. And this year will be virtual. So we know you guys will be safe. We can't wait to see what you put together for that presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, so right now we don't have any questions in the chat, but I do want to go back, and Ms. Jeffs touched on this also. And let me tell you, I hear this every single morning. For those of you who don't know, I have 4 children in the district. And every day I hear, Mommy, can I just be remote today? So this morning when they woke up and said that, I said, yes, you can be remote today. But that's a very common question. And Ms. Jeffs, you touched on it. I wonder if any of our clinicians want to maybe, highlight for our parents some thoughts, some strategies for kind of helping kids make that transition from remote to in-person.
I just want to say that with some of the families that I've been in contact with, when that question comes up, I always say it has to do with what works with your family. And I would also say, take a look at how your child is performing remotely. Take a look at their performance report card and see if it's a good fit for them at this time and go based off that. So some of the families specifically, since I'm working with the ones that are a little bit high risk due to maybe attendance issues, I would say if there's not a health concern, maybe it's a conversation you want to start having with your child just to see if they can sustain that remote learning right now, unless there's other changes that could happen at home. A lot of the kids are doing the remote in their bedrooms. So the parent would say, I woke them up this morning. I left them on the computer. Every time I pop in, they're on. I don't know why I'm getting this call that they're not on a specific class. So I would encourage them to, I share a copy of their schedule from 8 to 2:35. I review the timeframes for each class, and the only time you have a break is your lunch break, and there's really not a lot of time in between classes. So then I would say just maybe the night before, review your routines, get your glass of water, whatever you use to hydrate within the daytime, have it ready the night before, get your lunch ready, because there's only a short window for lunch. So it's not like they could go run and buy lunch or make their own lunch. So organizing the day-to-day and see if after you've tried that, if it's working, then that's great. If it's not, then it's something that you really want to evaluate. And then also this, when I speak with the child, I ask what their goals are, and I ask, how is the behavior that you're doing now working for you now? So it's really having a conversation, the parent, the child, and encouraging the parent-child communication as well. And in terms of the be in touch, I am bilingual, English and Spanish, so a lot of the families I speak with are Spanish speaking. And even today I had a conversation with a mom, and she's like, I didn't want to email the school because I don't know how to write in English. And I just said, I encourage her to send the email anyway, because it shows that you're participating in your child's learning, and the school will find a way to translate what you've written. So, and I said, keep doing that. If your child is sick, it's just reach out to the school and we'll figure out how to do it. So regardless of what language, I know we have a lot of different backgrounds and languages represented in our school district. The school will find a way to translate whatever it is that you're writing in that email. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Terry, and great suggestions. And maybe another question, what are some ways to start a conversation with children about their feelings? Travis?
There's a great book that I use called Visiting Feelings. It's written by Lauren Rubenstein, and it, with the little ones especially, uses the analogy that our feelings are our friends and they're talking to us. So, if your friend is coming over and they're standing in the doorway, you don't close the door in their face. You say, "Come on in, let's talk. Let's have some fun." So everyone has feelings. No feeling is inherently good or bad. They just are. That's what I tell my students. And again, treat your feelings like friends talking to you. Listen to what they have to say. Listen to what your body's telling you. It's a great book. Absolutely great book. And you can find a good read aloud on YouTube. And I know Mrs. Pansky's got something to say too, because her hand is up.
I was just going to say, I think also utilizing the ruler tools. If you had a mood meter in your home, checking in each night or each morning with how your child is feeling. Dr. Casaldo's got one right behind her. But that's a great way to start the conversation. There's also a page on the ruler website that is called Conversation Starters. So there are actual conversation starters already pre-made for you on the website. Hopefully we can include that in maybe the links that we send out after the presentation.
Actually, now that I think about it, Mrs. Pansky does bring up a good point again, and we talked about it before Dr. Castaldo did. That family charter, that's something that all of our families can do, elementary, middle, high school. It's guided by basically 2 questions in terms of how do you want to feel as a family, and what can you do to continue to feel that way? So if you go to the Ruler website, rulerapproach.org, and I'm sure we'll link that to our resources. There's tons of useful information there. Even create a family mood meter. I mean, at the elementary level, I'm sure at the other levels too, how are you feeling? What color? What word? That's the first thing I ask my students, whether it's an individual session or whether I'm virtual or whether I'm in with the kids. Give me a color or a word that describes how you're feeling. So create a mood meter at home with the family and check in periodically too. But that family charter is a great tool.
And if you need help with identifying colors and feelings, Dr. Seuss has a book that I use all the time, which is My Many Colored Days. And it goes through all the different colors and what those feelings are that are associated with them. So, mad is red, for example, and purple and yellow and all of that. So again, it's Dr. Seuss, My Many Colored Days. And I found that's been very helpful for students.
Great. Thank you all for sharing. I'm going to add another little anecdote. The first year we did the mood meter with the kids, I typically live in yellow, and I sort of expect everyone else to be in yellow. And I learned from doing the mood meter with one of my children that child lives in green. That's where that child wants to be. And that was a big, moment for me in understanding that one of my children, that's the best place for her to be, is to be in green. So these tools really do come in handy at home. I'm going to ask one other question, and then we'll see if there's any more in the chat. And so I want to ask, and this goes back a little bit to what Ms. Schwartz and the high school students were talking about, breaking the stigma. And I mean, we talk about mental health support so much here in Suffern that I almost forget there's a stigma. But there is, and there is still out there. And so I want to ask this question, why is it important to have these types of conversations around mental health awareness?
So I'll start. I believe that these topics are so important because if we don't talk about it, we don't manage it. A friend of mine says a lot that whatever is mentionable is manageable. And a lot of times when we don't talk about our feelings of anxiety or our feelings of depression, our feelings of just being overwhelmed, we bottle it in. And when we bottle it in, we don't use tools, or we don't seek out help in order to manage it, and realize that that's not a way that we have to live all the time, every day, right? That these are things that can be managed. And so, especially when, as young teenagers, it's important to find ways to speak about it and find ways to do things, right? So even if it's an activity, riding a bicycle, letting it out, going for a run, even playing video games, there's an equal balance to things, right? And I remember as a kid growing up, you used to have to go to somebody's house in order to play video games, right? And you still had the social interaction that way. And so it's finding what works best for this child and being able to invite them to talk about it. And I think that's the other thing too, is creating a safe space and a safe place for students to talk about these feelings.
Thank you. We do have a couple questions that have come in now in the chat. So the first one is, how can parents deal with special needs children during the pandemic?
Are we talking about special needs children's feelings and socio-emotional needs, or their academic needs?
They said emotionally.
Okay, so I would say that first and foremost, talk to your students, stay connected to your child, and then reach out to their teachers and to their school or whatever program that they are in for some assistance on how to deal specifically with the feelings that they have and their emotional needs.
Yeah, I would agree with that also. It's important for, especially, parents to reach out to the school, reach out to the teachers, the school psychologist, if the child sees a school psychologist, the guidance counselor if the child's in middle school, high school, elementary, and we can provide, supports for that.
Our social workers, as well as our psychologists, the school counselors, the student assistance counselors, all of our clinical team have the ability to connect families to outsourced resources they might need as well to help with specific issues any child may be having, whether it's a special needs child or one of our gen ed students sitting in a classroom. We have that ability to connect to the outside resources that exist as well. So reaching out to the school first is always a good starting point.
I know Mrs. Pansky and I certainly at Montebello, I push into all the classes, including our self-contained classes as well. So all students are serviced equally.
Great, thank you. We had one other question, which was asked how we handle racism that was brought to your offices. So I'm not sure that that's completely on topic for tonight, but I do know that it is absolutely essential that every one of our Suffern Central students feels safe. That if a child in our schools or in our remote environment that's in our classes does not feel safe, then we need to find a way to make them feel safe. So, and if that has to do with racism or other biases, we need to know that the child doesn't feel safe, and we need to create an environment where they do feel safe. One of our focuses for our superintendent's conference day coming up in March, and will be on a future Suffern streams, is the embedding and integrating of culturally responsive practices. And that's going to be, a real focus for the district moving forward. So be sure to catch a future Suffern streams on that topic. But it is so important that our children feel safe. And for whatever reason, if they don't feel safe in our environment, please let us know, let someone know, the teacher, the administrator, the counselor, please. We know that is absolutely essential for our children to learn, and it's a basic need. So if they feel, if the child feels that they have not been treated fairly or well, then we need to know so that we can address it. And so I think that's it for our questions. And I want to thank everyone. Our students are so lucky to have you as friends, as clinicians. I want to thank our extended clinical team. We couldn't bring everyone on tonight, so we just highlighted some of our, as we mentioned, our newer roles and newer faces. So thankful to have our students here. It makes me feel so proud that you started this group, because it means I know we are making progress with, destigmatizing mental health when our students are coming forward with it. Tess, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to thank you all for inviting us to speak on this subject that I know is really important to Vic and I. And kind of going back to what Mr. Pilgrim said, just one conversation can make the biggest difference. So we really wanted to encourage students to join our club, or even just reach out to me and Vic if you want to speak about anything. So thank you guys so much.
Yeah, it's really nice to have a platform where we can talk about these things and get the word out. Because I feel like not many kids know that there's you can come to other people and seek help or seek guidance in some sorts of ways. And I really like that we had this club. And we have so many of you guys who can help us out as well.
All right. Thank you all so much. Have a great evening. Enjoy your day tomorrow.